Welcome. My name is Nikki Underwood, and I'm a pre-K quality support specialist with Bright from the Start. This video series, Phonological Awareness, The Pathway to Literacy, is intended to provide an overview of the skills on the phonological awareness continuum and how each step on the continuum strengthens children's phonological awareness skills in order to build towards reading readiness. In this video, we will discuss the next two steps on the continuum, rhyming and alliteration. Let's quickly review the phonological awareness continuum. If you remember, the continuum outlines all of the skills that are considered to be phonological awareness skills and orders them from simple to complex. When teaching phonological awareness, you want to begin with the most foundational skill, which is listening, and progress towards the skills in the continuum. Rhyming. Rhyming is a listening skill. Rhyming is the ability to match words that sound the same at the end. Rhyming skills develop in a progression, just like all of the other skills on the phonological awareness continuum. Rhyming skills begin with children learning how to identify words that rhyme or sound the same at the end. Once children have a strong understanding of how to identify words that rhyme, they can then move on to producing rhyming words. Rhyming activities should always focus on listening. Let's look at two activities and see if we can determine which one is a listening activity and which one is not a listening activity. On the left of your screen, you see an activity called Which One Doesn't Belong? In this activity, students will look at three pictures. The teacher will say the words for each picture, and then students will identify the two pictures that rhyme. On the right hand of your screen, you see an activity called Word Family Chart. In this activity, the teacher will create a word family chart for at words by changing the first letter of the word to make new words. One of these activities addresses the skill of listening by looking at pictures, saying the words, and identifying the pictures that rhyme. This is a listening activity. The other activity focuses on looking at letters and how you use letters to make new words. This would not be a listening activity. Although it is valuable to talk about word families, making a chart would not be a listening activity. So focus on using pictures or objects instead of words or word cards. Rhyming activities include rhyme time matching with pictures or objects, reading rhyming books, or reading nursery rhymes or chants or singing rhyming songs. It also includes rhyming bingo and other rhyming games. Remember to always use pictures or object representations when working with rhyming words during phonological awareness time. Working with pictures or objects will ensure that children are listening to the words you're saying instead of looking at letters. Make sure that when you provide pictures or objects for children to look at, that you clearly say the word that represents each object. Make sure that you are clearly enunciating each sound in the word so that the children know to listen for words that sound the same. You may also want to put an emphasis on the ending of the word so children can clearly identify which words rhyme. So when you're introducing pictures, you might want to say frog. This is a frog. Or bell. This is a bell. And you would want to clearly identify each picture so that children know which words you're looking for. For example, this is a picture of a shell. So you would want to clearly identify that word and say the word. Children often make errors when they begin working on rhyming skills. It's important to identify the errors that children are making so that you can provide intervention and reteach skills that they may need practice on. Look at this common rhyming error. When asked for a word that rhymes with bat, the child says ball. What's the error? Well, there could be a couple things going on here. One thing to consider is the child is matching beginning sounds. He's focusing on the wrong part of the word. He's listening for the beginning, and he should be listening to the ending of the word. So you might need to say the word more clearly, putting emphasis on the ending of the word. It could also be that the child is associating word meanings. He heard bat, he said ball, because a bat goes with a ball. So if a child is associating word meanings, we need to back up and get him to understand that we're listening for the sounds of the word, not what the word means. Another common error is that when asked for a word that rhymes with kick, the child says cake. What is the error here? In this situation, the child is matching the beginning and ending phonemes, but not the medial sound. So again, you would want to clearly say the words and put the emphasis on the sounds that the child needs to listen to. When children are making mistakes rhyming, you need to go back to listening. Go back to that foundational step on the phonological awareness continuum and reinforce listening skills by reteaching and doing repeat listening activities that are fun and engaging. Remember, if they're saying it wrong, then they're hearing it wrong. If they're not able to identify or produce rhyming words, they may be hearing you incorrectly. So you want to go back and make sure that you're clearly enunciating the words that you are asking children to work with. Children are ready for alliteration, the next step on the continuum, when they can match rhyming words, produce rhyming words, even nonsense words, and repeat familiar nursery rhymes and chants. The next step on the continuum is alliteration. Alliteration is the skill of isolating the beginning sound of a word. So alliteration is a listening skill. Alliteration is the ability to identify and produce words that sound the same at the beginning. Remember to focus on the beginning sound, not the beginning letter. When you're focusing on the beginning sound, it is a phonological awareness activity. When you're focusing on a beginning letter, it is now becoming a phonics activity. Alliteration skills are also developed in a progression. Children have to first be able to identify words that have the same beginning sound before they're able to produce words with the same beginning sound. So you'll want to begin by focusing on the beginning sounds of words, clearly enunciating those words, and putting an emphasis on the beginning sound. Alliteration activities should focus on listening. So let's take a look at these two activities to see if we can determine which one is a listening activity and which one is not a listening activity. On the left-hand side of your screen, you see an activity called Which One Doesn't Belong? In this activity, students will again look at 3 pictures. The teacher will say the words for each picture, and students will identify the 2 pictures that have the same beginning sound. In the other activity, the letter sound chart, teachers and students will work together to create a chart of words that start with the letter S. These 2 activities represent almost the same skill, identifying what happens at the beginning of the word. But which one doesn't belong? That activity focuses on the beginning sound, and the letter sound chart focuses on the beginning letter. Consider this. If you start making a chart of words that start with the letter S, the first word a child might say is snake. He also might say the word silly. Both of those words start with the letter S and belong on a letter S chart. But what if the child says circle or city? Those 2 words don't belong on a letter S chart. Now you find yourself in a position as the teacher having to reason with the 4-year-old about why their word that sounds the same at the beginning doesn't belong on this chart because it doesn't have the same letter at the beginning. So once again, we find that when looking at pictures and saying words, teachers and students are listening. But when looking at a chart to identify words that begin with the same letter, teachers and students are looking, but they're not focusing on listening. Alliteration activities include I spy with beginning sounds, creating nonsense alliteration sentences like Bobby Bear bounces basketballs. You can also play games where children are sorting pictures that have the same beginning sound, or they're doing a beginning sound scavenger hunt. And of course, matching beginning sounds with pictures or objects is always an appropriate activity to use for alliteration skills. Remember, when you are using pictures or objects to help children practice isolating and identifying the beginning sound, you will want to start by saying the name of each object, calling out the word that that object represents, and carefully enunciating each of the sounds in the word, placing an emphasis on the beginning sound. Children also make errors when they are practicing and mastering alliteration. Let's take a look at some common errors that children make and see if we can identify what the error is and how to provide intervention. If a child is struggling to identify the beginning sound of a word, it may be that he's not able to hear the beginning sound. You might want to repeat the word, clearly enunciate, and place an emphasis on the sound you want the child to pay attention to. Another common error includes when children substitute one sound for another. Most commonly, children substitute the TH sound with the F sound. So you might hear children say, instead of 3 years old, they might be free years old. So again, you would want to repeat the word, clearly enunciating and placing an emphasis on the beginning sound. If a child is struggling to match words with the same beginning, or if he is having trouble focusing on the beginning phoneme, he's focusing on the ending of the word, you would again want to make sure that you're clearly enunciating the words that you're using, placing an emphasis on the sound that you want your children to pay attention to. All of these errors do require intervention on the part of the teacher, and you want to remember that when you're providing intervention, you want to go back to listening. Make sure that the child has strong listening skills, is able to tune in and pay attention to the sounds you want them to focus on, and that they have been able to identify and match sounds under the listening skills. Because remember, if they're saying it wrong, then they're hearing it wrong. Let's use the example again of the word 3, the number 3. If you ask a child how old he is and he says free instead of 3, that means if he's saying it wrong, then he has been hearing it wrong, and we need to correct him with clear enunciation and emphasis on the appropriate sound. Children are ready to move on to segmenting skills, which is the next step in the continuum, when they can isolate and match the ending sounds of a word, and they can isolate and match the beginning sounds of words. Thank you for joining me on this journey through the phonological awareness continuum. Teaching, reteaching, practicing, repetition, and intervention are key to ensuring that each individual child has strong phonological awareness skills and is ready for the next step in the continuum. Please watch the next video for more information on segmenting skills. And I would like to say thank you and let you know that if you have any questions specific to phonological awareness, you can reach out to me at the email address on your screen, or you can contact your own pre-K specialist for further support. Thank you.